Are you a real estate investor looking to sharpen your skills or a newbie looking to become one? You're in the right place. Welcome to Where Should I Invest? Real Estate Investing in Canada with your host, Sarah Larbi.
You've done a lot, but one thing I really want to emphasize is you were happy at the job you left.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And I think that's key. Like for me, the fact that you were happy at the job you left, you were telling me, you know, you loved your supervisor, you had a great position, you were making 6 figures plus, like you were comfortable, you were not struggling to pay the bills. So how did you get to say, okay, I'm working every day, I'm working 9 to 5, I'm going to come home, you know, I've done enough today. Like I worked 8 hours today. I've done enough. I'm making good money. I'm comfortable. I can pay my mortgage. I can buy my things. What was that where you're like, I need more. I'm going to come home then after I work all day and study, or I'm going to come home and I'm going to analyze properties, and I'm going to come home and I'm going to, you know, like read a book about how to get the mind drive to get where I want to go. Like, what was that fire under your butt? You know, like for me, it's my kids. For me, I know that I have to feed other people. And I had to find a way to spend time with family and to have that freedom. And it's like, there's no choice in that. And so I'm not in that spot where I was comfortable to say, you're comfortable where like you can afford all the things you wanted. You could, right? At that point, but you still had that fire. So where did that fire come from? How do other people get it? And what did you tell yourself to say, I'm going to come home after 8 hours of working, probably more hours actually, probably work, knowing you, and like then did more. Like, how did you push yourself and make it happen?
Yeah, so many great questions. So I will say, you know, my last 5 years, I worked at Lavazza. Before that, it was Mars Drinks, and I had an amazing boss. And I actually just had him on my podcast recently, Dave Pitchner, amazing. And that was in 2015 that I had started that job. But I'll tell you, you know, the 2 jobs, and it was always in sales. I've always been in sales, but the 2 jobs prior, I was actually miserable going to work because the managers, I think we didn't see on the same level. I mean, I have to be careful with what I say. You know, some of them were great people and whatnot, but it just wasn't for me. And I think that there were times in the past prior to that I had left 6-figure jobs because they didn't treat me the way that I wanted to be treated, or respect me the way that I wanted to be respected. There were some bosses that if you weren't filled and you didn't have your team full, they wanted you to work on a Saturday, to come in on the morning. And some of them were very micromanaging, where they would make you call them at 8 o'clock in the morning from the office number to make sure that you were in there. And there were some situations that I'm like, I never would want to lead a team that way. It is what it is. Look, but I'll tell you that at those moments, that's the stuff that you never want to go back to. And that's when I started thinking there's got to be another way. So 2013 is when we bought our first property. And I've left these 6-figure jobs without having necessarily a backup in place. I left because for me, culture is so important. Your team, your manager, respect, that is so important. I don't want to be stressed out on Sunday, wondering how Monday is going to be and what kind of BS I'm going to have to deal with. So I've left 6-figure jobs in the past, and, I worked my way up. I didn't always make 6 figures. I made $5 an hour at some point. I'll tell you, my first year at Zox, I think it was with the amount of hours that I was putting in. Anyways, long story short, Matt was telling me to go back to nursing and work in a hospital because I would do better. And I'm like, you know what, one day I'm going to make more money than you. So like, you got to trust me. And, thank you for helping and covering the majority of our bills right now. One day the tables will change. And then I met Dave at a prior, when I was working at my prior job, and I was leaving that prior job regardless. I ended up giving him a call and I say, hey, you know what, I'm going to be resigning. I actually had a completely different job I was going to, had that lined up. And he's like, hey, let's go for coffee. Let's talk. And he ended up hiring me. And I will tell you, that was a great decision. And I was already in real estate at the time. That was in 2015 that I started at Mars Drinks. But, from a culture standpoint, it was amazing. From a management standpoint, it was like, he was actually a true leader. And I think, it was great for me to be able to do both. I was working during work hours, and then, in the evening and on the weekends, like I wasn't so stressed about my day-to-day at that point anymore, that I was really able to, you know, focus. Like, yeah, it's a ton of time, but I was also able to focus, and, you know, continue making moves and buying properties. But the fire under my ass part was because of those situations from the past where, you know, I was just so stressed out with my prior companies, and I'm like, I just don't even want to be here. And there were many times I would come home and I would be crying because like the bosses would like yell at me for no reason. You know, and long story short, they had reached out down the road and apologized. And one of them actually even called Matt and apologized. And, you know, it is what it is. Look, everyone makes their mistakes along the way. But that's what forced me to say, I don't want to be working for somebody else forever. And that was already ingrained before the last 5 years. But I'll tell you, if you can find a company that supports you and supports your goals and your vision. I was always very open, you know, with Dave about real estate and my goals. And he was always so supportive, and it's so cool. If you guys listen to his story, he's bought a bunch of properties on his own, and his life has changed dramatically as well, thanks to that as well. But it's consistency, right? If you have the fire under you and you let it burn out, then you're not going to go as far as you can. You got to keep it consistent.
Mm-hmm. And what I really love about that is that you never, like, I know you Googled like how to be rich, but never once have you been like, well, I just wanted more money. I wanted more money. Right. And I think when we look at opportunities like not about making the most amount of money, you know, you're going to get that opportunity if you're looking for ways to improve your life, make life better, enjoy life more, freedom of time. Like, I think one of the biggest influences you've had is like taking that May to September for yourself and knowing like that's what you want. Because if this is your last year on the earth, or next year's your last year on the earth, and you just spent the last 2 years simply grinding and spending no quality time with family and friends and, you know, things like that, then what's the point?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And I think, you know, everyone's going to have their different version of what they want to do. Mm-hmm. You know, when I left my 9-to-5 it was October 1st, 2020. And, you know, they gave me so much respect that I gave them 6 months notice and 6 months heads up, to train, you know, the person to take over and whatnot. But October 2020, I didn't really have any plans. Like, to be honest, I was leaving. I'm like, you know what, with my midterm, short-term rentals, the long-term rentals, you know, the appreciation, you know, opportunities will open. And I was okay with where my portfolio was at. And I'll tell you that, you know, sometimes when you have more time on your hands, more opportunities come, unique opportunities that you can do. But I didn't even really know what that next step was. I just knew that, you know, I was okay that I didn't have to work 16-hour days, because I'll tell you, one of the things that, you know, I think made me really busy. So I was working, you know, managing the distribution for, you know, at some points part of the country and all of the country, and reps and hiring and training. And I loved it, you know, so I'd wake up at 4 a.m. so I could go to the gym at 5:15, because I think that's always important. And then, you know, I'd be in the office. Sometimes I would be traveling, you know, Canada wide. And then in the evenings, it was about, you know, whether it was the right club or the podcast or, you know, making deals happen, anything in between. I just loved it. Right. And so I think that's the difference is I've never, you know, some people are, some people aren't. I'm not a TV person. I'm not a movie person. Like, I love listening to podcasts. I love like that kind of stuff. And, you know, I used to shut the radio off, and just listen to audiobooks and podcasts. And you can learn so much along that, you know, just doing that for a certain number of years. And I think there was, like, what is it, Malcolm Gladwell that says 10,000 hours to become the expert. I'm like, I got to get my 10,000 hours in. Right. And so, you know, sometimes it was listening to podcasts. Sometimes it was networking and going out to events and going on to webinars. And like, yeah, it seemed like I was, I mean, you're going to say I was working. I didn't feel like that was necessarily work.
You enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
You wanted to grow, you wanted to thrive. And that was my next question for in terms of self-development. For someone not only just starting out in the industry, but someone who's seasoned, who, you feel those roadblocks sometimes. You get so far, like, even with me and you, we talk about things I want to do and ideas I have. And it's always like getting past that, analysis paralysis, you call it, and getting past that roadblock of just actually doing something, and then also self-educating. And I think the more you educate, the less scared you are about something. And then the less scared you are about something, the less hesitant you are.
Thanks so much for listening to Where Should I Invest with your host, Sarah Larbi. Make sure to listen in next time. We'll catch you on the next episode of Where Should I Invest?